Oh, bless your heart. That's what Southerners would say to the cities on this list if they could. Southerners are known for their biting opinions, and when asked what city in their state they hate the most, they didn't hold back. The Southern region, as designated by the federal government, spans 15 states, so in order to not make this video an hour long, I've broken it into two parts. In this video, we're taking a look at the Southeastern states, including West Virginia, Maryland, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida. Welch, West Virginia. West Virginia, as a whole, has some pretty serious issues going for it, so getting voted the worst city must really hurt. You know comedian Steve Harvey from Family Feud? This is his birthplace. Back when he was born in the 50s, this town wasn't so bad. They had a bustling downtown area, as you can see from this photo taken in 1946, as well as 3 hospitals. Although they only had around 6,600 residents at that time, Welch was the retail hub for all of McDowell County, which at that time had around 100,000 residents. The coal industry was booming in the first half of the 20th century, so Welch, sitting at the southern end of West Virginia amongst the mountains, thrived as well. Today, McDowell County only has 18,363 residents, and the community of Welch is down to around 3,500. It is slowly becoming a ghost town. If you walk through the downtown area now, you'll find abandoned businesses sitting empty. West Virginians say that Welch is now a poor image of what it used to be, and it's run down. This town was once so heavily dependent on coal, but now that industry only makes up 4.42% of the jobs in the area. The 3 largest industries today are healthcare, educational services, and public administration, but those jobs aren't paying enough to keep people afloat. The median household income for this town is only $37,841. In comparison, the median household income for the US is $64,994. Sadly, 23.7% of Welch's residents fall below the poverty line. With low income and high poverty, you'll often see health issues, and that's exactly what you get with Welch. They're number 1 in obesity for the state of West Virginia, number 1 in teen pregnancies, number 1 in adult smokers, and number 1 in homicides at a per capita rate of 17.8 per 100,000 people. But, you know, on the plus side, the cost of living is 25% lower than the US average, assuming someone would want to live in such a depressing area. Virginia Beach, Virginia. One thing that people say about Virginia Beach time and time again is that the residents are mean, aggressive, and rude. Some say that it's due to the city being a military hub. The Naval Air Station Oceana military base is located in Virginia Beach, so a sizable number of the population are members of the military. Residents also pointed out that having the military in their area causes noise pollution because they have aircraft constantly flying overhead. One other thing that is often cited for why Virginia Beach gets points taken away is that it's expensive. The cost of living is 16% above the national average, and the housing costs are 39% above the national average. Aside from that, Virginia Beach scores fairly well in the other major categories. It might cost more to live there, but the residents average higher wages. The median household income is $78,136, and only 7.2% of the residents live below the poverty line. They have a population of 459,000, so one might expect there to be a lot of crime, but the last report on file only had 99 violent crimes, including 4 murders, and 1,512 property crimes. So Virginia Beach is safer than 54% of US cities. There are far more dangerous places in Virginia than this city. There's Danville, for example, or Petersburg. So I'm not really sure why the residents hate on Virginia Beach so much. If you live in this state and you think Virginia Beach is the worst city, leave a comment letting me know why. Poolesville, Maryland. For the 5,742 people who reside within Poolesville, the main complaints you hear about the community are that it no longer has a grocery store and there's nothing to do. But really, isn't the lack of entertainment part of the appeal of living in a tiny town? It means that you're not going to be dealing with large amounts of people gathering in your area and clogging up the streets. Poolesville is considered a bedroom community for people who commute to work in Washington, D.C., so as a result, the wages for the area residents are higher than you would typically see in a rural community. The median household income is $183,700, so that's almost 3 times the average for the U.S. Fewer than 1% of the residents fall below the poverty line. With so many people working in the capital, you also see that there's a higher than average educational attainment rate. In the US, 32.9% of the adults have a 4-year college degree, while in Poolesville, it's 61.4%. Of course, when you have more affluent people in a community, you're likely to see the cost of living and housing costs go up. The housing market is 114% above the national average. The cheapest house listed for sale currently is priced at $425,000, and the most expensive is $1.8 million. That's part of why the rest of Maryland hates this town. It's human nature to hate rich people. Another reason is that it's no longer an easily accessible town. There was once a ferry that would shuttle people across to Virginia, but as of March 2022, it's no longer active. Then there's the presence of at least one white nationalist within the town's limits. So yeah, this little town might have some underlying issues. Gastonia, North Carolina. Gastonia is the 13th most populous city in North Carolina, but it's apparently the most hated, according to North Carolinians. There are a few reasons for that. First, there's the crime problem. The overall crime rate is 89% above the North Carolina average and 113% above the national average. When you look at violent crimes, it's even worse. Then it jumps to 138% above the national average. This isn't a huge city by any means. It has 80,411 people, but they reported 9 murders, 711 various other violent crimes, and 3,172 property crimes. With numbers like that, you'd think people would be getting out of this area, but the population actually increased by almost 9,000 from the 2010 census. Why? Why would anyone want to move to this city? It's not just the crime. There's also an issue with the job market. This is very much a blue-collar community, with manufacturing accounting for 17.3% of the jobs, but the city has had issues for a while now with shutdowns and job losses. The second and third largest industries are healthcare and retail. A lot of people are struggling in Gastonia. The median household income is almost $15,000 below the national average at $50,266, so 15.2% of the city's residents live below the poverty line. Due to the high poverty, low wages, and job losses experienced by the city, there's a homelessness problem in Gastonia as well. They estimate that they have around 200 people experiencing homelessness, but no one is really sure because they also have what they call hidden homeless, which are the people who are couch surfing and flying under the radar. Greer, South Carolina. Greer is apparently known in the state of South Carolina for a few things. First, it's the site of the only BMW manufacturing facility in North America, so manufacturing accounts for 17.7% of the jobs in this city of 35,000, with that being the largest industry. The second and third largest industries are healthcare and retail. The median household income is higher than the national average at $65,516, and the poverty rate is also better than the national rate at 8.4%. Greer is also known for leaning into its redneck identity. Fun fact, Greer ranks number 1 in the state for dollar stores per capita. This city also occasionally has eye-popping news. The city had to put security cameras up in Pelham Mill Park because there were reports of people getting their freak on in front of bystanders. The sheriff was quoted as saying, "Under no circumstances should a young child or community member who is trying to enjoy a peaceful day at a park have to be exposed to this sort of activity." Every time I try to imagine what this might have looked like, I always picture some church lady clutching her pearls. Since things like this are included in the crime report, Greer's crime rate is 3% higher than the South Carolina average and 43% higher than the national average, but violent crimes are 27% below the national rate. They had 97 violent crimes, including 1 murder, and 1,051 property crimes. The chance of becoming a victim is 1 in 30, and Greer is safer than 27% of U.S. cities. Macon, Georgia. Macon, Georgia is a little weird. It's a consolidated city-county that has the official name of Macon-Bibb County. They had been trying to consolidate the city with the county as far back as 1933, but it always failed to get enough votes. But they finally passed it in 2012. This is usually done to address certain governmental issues, but it seems like this area is still having problems. In 2021, it was reported that Macon was suffering from a deputy shortage, which was causing an increase in crime in the downtown area. People mention the crime over and over again when asked why they don't like this community. It's 62% higher than the Georgia average and 66% higher than the national average, at least according to estimates. The FBI report doesn't list out the numbers of reported crimes like it does for most cities. But according to those estimates, the city-county is safer than only 9% of U.S. cities, and the chance of becoming a victim is 1 in 26. Another reason people in Georgia like to hate on Macon is the poor economic climate. The 3 largest industries are healthcare, retail, and education, and it seems like the jobs aren't paying as well as they should. The median household income is $41,317, and 25% of the residents fall below the poverty line. Something to keep in mind about Georgia is that they still follow the national minimum wage, so there are a lot of people out there making $7.25 per hour. Orlando, Florida. When you think about Florida, you probably picture the beach, but you don't get that with Orlando since it's in the middle of the state, so that's one reason people don't like this city. Then there are all of the tourists. There's Disney World, of course, but Orlando is home to several theme parks, which bring people to the city. Did you know that arts, entertainment, and recreation make up 6.2% of the jobs in this area? That's a lot of people in those types of roles, but that category didn't crack the top 3 industries. Those would be retail, healthcare, and accommodation and food services. They also have a ton of other touristy type things to do, do, so there are a lot of out-of-state drivers clogging up the streets, and Floridians hate that. Then there's the crime problem. Orlando's crime is 117% higher than the Florida average. But with it being Florida, that's only 99% higher than the national average. They have 307,573 residents at last count, but they reported 11,158 property crimes and 2,524 violent crimes, including 31 murders. The chance of being a victim of a crime is 1 in 22, and Orlando is safer than only 4% of US cities. Another thing cited by Florida's residents as to why they hate this place is that it's too expensive. The overall cost of living is only 3% higher than the national average, but when the median household income is only $55,183, it doesn't stretch very far, so 16.1% of the residents live below the poverty line. It's also often mentioned that the Florida man stories and memes tend to come out of Orlando, so there's that. If you live in one of these states, do you agree with the city picked by your fellow statesmen? Let me know in the comments. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and maybe share it on social media. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, I remain stuck in the cornfield.